Nikon Z8 is the hero of the day. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and we were going to talk about long-term review of this beast that I'm holding here. And the point of this review is to me that this is the cheapest camera with stacked sensor inside, which is kind of interesting because, like, if you want to buy a stacked sensor camera in Sony system, you have to pay twice that much as with Z8. So does this camera really perform? Does it have like real usage scenario that you really need all those parameters here? And where is this camera under delivering and where is this camera over delivering? This is the question we are going to answer, and in the final part of this video I'll have my personal recommendations. Who is this camera perfectly suited for? So make sure to watch until the end. Of course, make sure to leave thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. So let's talk about build quality real quick. Build quality is just amazing. This is real Nikon, and Nikon is telling us we are back. The comfort of holding it is just great. Me personally, I prefer a little smaller, a little lighter bodies, like in case of Sony, but overall this is like amazing camera to hold. There's dual card slot, but the point is that SD is more like an auxiliary, a card here. The main card you would like to use most probably will be CF Express Type B. I'm using Angelbird 512 gigs, which is a great card to use. And then you can use full potential of this camera, like 20 frames per second raw burst with AF, no blackout. It's an amazing situation, and you can hold this thing for 30 seconds and it just doesn't stop. So this is amazing. When it comes to screen, both EVF and screen are not the highest resolution out there, but both are color accurate, very responsive, bright enough to give you a very good tool and very good, very good framing experience. The only downside of this thing here is that it, folds out, and then you can do this in horizontal mode, but it doesn't flip out. Vertical, horizontal, vertical, you know what I mean? And it doesn't flip out. So that's the downside. So for those of you who want to record themselves, that's a downside. So you will need an external monitor and some kind of mirror to see what you're actually recording. The amount of buttons is amazing. Like, you have a lot of buttons to customize, both on the front, top, back. Even here you have special button to control your autofocus system. And in case of this camera, instead of having like classic PASM dial, you have APS-M, dial. You have this little display here that you can actually read very easily, and gives you all the basic information like shutter speed, like what kind of resolution you are in, 4K, 30 frames per second, ISO 1000, 30 frames of a second, and f8. So you change a lot of things with this mode, with this button mode, and you rotate here. The bottom one, you rotate here, and you change PASM mode, which is okay, but you need two hands to change it. So that's why I prefer the classic dial. Overall, great build quality, something like really amazing. The downside is the battery is a smaller battery than in Z9. So we have an EL15C battery here, which according to CIPA standards can last around 350 shots, but in real life it can last around 450 shots. But if you want to use this camera professionally, you want to have 2 or 3 of these batteries with you, because it can die pretty soon, and it happened to me. And I tried to recharge it with this power delivery port here, but it doesn't accept any charger. It has to be power delivery charger with like good amount of power. So for example, I have like 60 watts charger for my laptop, and I can use that to charge this camera, but phone charger is not working, or most of them are not working. But good side is that you have 2 USB-C ports, so one can be used for data transfer and the other one to charge the camera. You have, of course, 2 jacks for headphones and for microphone, and full-sized HDMI. Now let's talk about the most important part, which is the performance of this camera. And I'll start with the most important part, word before we go to image quality, which is autofocus. This again made me have mixed feelings about Nikon Z8, because autofocus at one hand is very responsive, it does use an amazing technology there, but at the other hand, I feel like it can get lost in some scenarios. So for example, here you have the comparison between my private A7 Mark IV that is recording me right now and Z8. A7 Mark IV is a basic camera from Sony, but I feel like the autofocus, despite not having that much to offer, is offering in what it has a better experience. So for example, my wife is taking off her sunglasses and Sony does immediately recognize that the eye is there behind the glasses. So in both cases, when she is wearing glasses and she's taking these glasses off, the eye autofocus indicator is right there on her eye. With Z8, it can get lost. It can start to, give you some squares around her fingers. It can like think, oh, maybe that's not what we are supposed to focus on, so it's still focusing on glasses, and then finally it finds the eye. Those are little things, but to me this is important. So the main point here is, when you want to use Nikon, you have to fiddle with the settings, and you have a lot of settings that are responsible for autofocus performance. You have, like, for example, shutter priority or sharpness priority. So those are the things you want to look into to get a full experience out of this camera, and tailored experience out of this camera, which is very necessary. So it's not like with Sony out of the box, it does detect your face and your eye without any problem. Here it can get lost. Same thing with filming. So like, for example, I'm sliding my camera on the on the wooden part of the boardwalk by Ria Formosa here in southern Portugal, where I live, and you can see like Nikon is first focusing on the landscape, which I was expecting him to do, and then it finally focused or suddenly focused on the piece of wood, and it gave me like macro shot. So those are things that make this autofocus still like something to improve. So Nikon, if you guys are watching, like there's some room for improvement. However, still, it's not a deal breaker. It's a great autofocus, specifically if you're taking shots of birds, like more like specific situations, more like standard situations. So you have like long lens, you are detecting the bird, and it does amazing job. Next one is dynamic range. This camera doesn't have the mechanical shutter, it's only electronical shutter. So dynamic range is a little lower than in, like, for example, Sony A7R5, which gives you even more resolution but less dynamic range. So in here we have a stacked sensor, which I already mentioned, but it's a stacked sensor with 45.7 megapixels. So it's a high resolution sensor with very good technology behind. So dynamic range is still, despite not having this mechanical shutter, is still very good. So working with raw files out of this camera is very easy. You can drag these highlights down, you can drag these shadows up, and it really performs amazing. So for photographers, this is a great camera. When it comes to low light performance, well, I'll be honest with you, I was a little disappointed. It's more noisy than I expected it to be, and again, no electronic shutter, and this high megapixel count. Those are the factors that usually contribute to like higher noise levels. So up to 3200 sorry, ISO, this camera performs very well. Over at 600, for example, 6400, it starts to be really grainy, like for my standards, but it's my personal opinion. However, the good side of it is that all Nikons that I have tested in my history always have very even grain, so it's easy to remove in post-production. And even like when you look at this super dark scenery with like this super white, I don't know, like small building that I found by the beach in Spain, this shows that like the noise levels are very even. So this sensor is really working very well. So this dark side of a thing is very even, so it's easy to remove in post. However, it will get more noisy than some other cameras like Sony A7 R5 or Sony A7 IV or Canon R5. But now let's talk about the video quality and video possibilities with this thing. And like, this is an amazing camera when it comes to video. 8K RAW for 60 frames per second, and it can record that for over 35 minutes, and then it will overheat. But still, who needs more than 35 minutes of such a footage? That's like unusual. Even my 512 gigs Angel Bird would not be enough for that length of this humongous video. And working with this file in DaVinci Resolve is a pleasure, because DaVinci Resolve is really well optimized with this Nikon RAW files. So overall, an amazing camera. In 4K, same thing. If you want longer recording times, you have to go to a regular 4K, turn off oversampling, and then this camera can run forever, and still the image quality is great. And I have to say that giving us users, filmmakers, photographers, in this case filmmakers, this option to have like all the codecs available. So you have Nikon RAW, you have ProRes RAW, you have also like H120, 264, H265. You can choose how and like what you want to record, and that is awesome. When talking about video recording, let's talk about image stabilization. So image stabilization, the standard one is just okay. It can be a little like jerky, is that the word? Like it can catch up sometimes, try to like, stabilize, and you can see it is a little jumpy. But when you activate a sports mode, things are getting better. The image, to me, like this image stabilization is getting smoother, and there's no crop factor, or at least I didn't notice, or maybe a very small crop factor. So active or sport image stabilization is the way to go, and it's pretty good. Still, to me, the leader of the market is Panasonic when it comes to image stabilization, but this thing performs very well. So overall, we have a great camera, and I didn't mention that, if you combine all these possibilities, like 20 frames per second, no blackout, this image, this autofocus with subject detection, video capabilities, it is an amazing camera. So who is this camera for? So if your priority is like out of the box, easy to use autofocus system, then A7 Mark IV, or if you need object detection, A7R5 can be your better choice. If image stabilization is most important to you, probably Panasonic S5 Mark II or S5 Mark II X will be the best choice. But if you're looking for a great hybrid camera that has this amazing speed and amazing video possibilities, then Nikon Z8, is a very good choice. Specifically, if you're into wildlife photography, bird photography, or maybe sport photography, this thing can really perform. And if you're a professional and you're looking for something cheaper than Z9, R3, or A1, then this port, for example, this USB-C port, can have the dongle connected to a LAN cable, and you can upload photos from this camera this way. So again, very, very interesting solution. And if you want to turn it into something like a younger brother of Z9, you can buy like grip, so you get this horizontal vertical grip, and you get extra battery packs to make this camera last forever. So there are solutions. It's not a perfect camera, and I had this mixed feeling. So is this camera in kind of a limbo? So who is this camera for? But now I have the answer. Real like sport photographers and wildlife photographers that want to save a little bit, perfect solution. Filmmakers with ambitions to shoot in RAW files, for sure this camera is great for you. And taking into consideration its price point now, this can be an amazing choice. I'm still very curious what will be the updated price for Sony A1, since this is like a stacked sensor Sony, because Sony A1 II is already available on the market, or is hitting the market very really soon. So I'm guessing that Sony A1 will see some price cut. To me, that would be my preference. I would prefer to shoot with Sony, but that's just my personal thing. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Oh, I didn't mention the new Nikkor 50mm 1.4 that I'll be reviewing very soon, which is a great portrait lens that is actually not that expensive, taking into consideration it's a native Nikkor lens. Okay, guys, now, thumbs up, subscribe. I hope you like this review. I really put a lot of heart and a lot of testing into this review, so please appreciate it by thumbs up, subscriptions. Comment if you have any questions regarding this guy or other cameras, or if you have any other comparisons or things other users would like to know before purchasing Z8. I hope you liked it. Once again, see you in the next recording and see you soon. Cheers.